Hey everyone. So here's this thought on Saturn that I've been working with a lot, and it's been very much awake and blossoming within my own consciousness. So I want to share this with you all. There's a tendency for all of us on our journey to, consciously or not, create a very strong split between spirit and flesh, between this deeper truth and purpose that we know is inherent to our lives, the sense of unity, the sense of oneness, the sense of wholeness, and then pay the bills, and then work out all the details of our physical, earthly time, form, space, existence. And in this sense, we oftentimes contradict this deep wisdom and inner knowing by becoming very concerned and stressed and worried and weighed down by factors that exist within time and space and form. When we look at Saturn, we're always addressing the dimension of reality that manifests within conditions. So this is a condition. This is a condition. Everything that can be defined, held, touched, tasted, has a boundary, has a parameter, has an existence in physical terms. That's Saturn. And we often make the mistake of saying that Saturn is reality, right? You gotta pay the bills, you gotta get down, you gotta work with reality, things as they are. But the truth is Neptune is reality, spirit is reality, oneness, wholeness is reality. And what happens is we begin to look upon our physical, worldly existence in this way where we are actually giving so much prominence and importance to a very conditional and temporary construct that is just a part of our lives and a part of our experience for a very short time. In fact, it only exists within time. The greater part of who we are is not within time. So I'm really learning to reframe Saturn, and thus my understanding of time and space and form, as the way we are each consciously choosing to engage in life, in existence, in order to unravel whatever beliefs we have in separation. The whole manifestation of parameters, boundaries, limitations, they're not original. They're not a part of the template, and that we're limited by it because either we give prominence to unity and wholeness, or we give prominence to separation. And it's easy to just accept, what do you mean? Yeah, sure, we're whole, but there's also this level of reality where we're separate. And maybe that's true, but reality doesn't have compartments. These levels of realities aren't these objective external measures, they're actually internal. And so where we are working with time and space, where we are learning to develop consciousness and responsibility and accountability within structure and form, time and space, isn't where these things are like defined set parameters that are limiting us that we have to learn to work with. It's not a jail, but it's reflecting our own internal consciousness. This is where we're working out our own awakening. This is where we are working out, where we are encompassing and acknowledging the unity, the sacredness, and the holiness, and the importance of everything. So, for example, this is not about transcendence. Saturn is not about transcendence, right? It's not the point of it. Imagine a person that grew up with alcoholic parents. And so they never received any strong guidelines, no rules. And no, Saturn is that. Saturn says, you're in a body, you got to be careful with it. Don't put your hand in fire. Look both ways before you cross the street. And this person grows up and, their parents weren't there. They didn't have any role models. And when they're a teenager, they just rebel, they get angry. In their early adulthood, they just, they don't groom, they don't take care of themselves. They don't really care about making money or paying rent. They get into negative substance habits. And they just kind of spiral in that direction. And they get to a point where they meet someone, they have a family, and now suddenly they have to make money. They have to clean up their act. And it feels like this weight. right? This restrictiveness, this loss of freedom. And that can be very depressing. This is a very common Saturn experience for all of us on various levels. That sense of restrictiveness. And, oftentimes we'll go from that extreme of, not having any boundaries, not really taking responsibility for ourselves, to this other extreme of like, well, I got to do this now. And we suppress ourselves. We kind of give ourselves to the man, quote unquote, to get a job, work 9 to 5, and we're paying the bills, supporting our family, but there's no joy, there's no life. So that's an example where we're going from one extreme of neglecting form to being enslaved by form, and really both of those are illusory. And so the requirement of Saturn is not to neglect it, but not to become enslaved by it, but to use it consciously. Your body, the inner conditioning of your thought structure, and the entire template of your life, the structural reality of your life, reflects the inner reality of your own soul. It's an outpicturing of where you are unraveling your own consciousness on your journey of self-remembering. And the way to work with Saturn from that point of view is with consciousness, to use it, right? If there are requirements or needs to make money, then our path is to bring consciousness and agency into that need, not to come from fear. And so we discipline and we train ourselves to engage with form from a place of command and consciousness. We cultivate mastery. We learn how to build a foundation consciously in our own life. So this person eventually, they go to these extremes of negligence and then fear. And after getting really depressed and then kind of getting back into alcoholism and other bad behaviors, they realize that they need to really look at themselves. And this is a Saturn quality, the looking within and actually getting to know yourself. My little Capricorn daughter is aware of how I am talking about Saturn right now. She's like, give me more. With Saturn, we look inside. We unravel our own conditioning. That's the foundation from which we approach form and time and space. And it's humbling because Saturn says the way through to the absolute is by bringing great respect and consciousness to the conditions in your life right now. The body that you are perceiving, the relationships you are perceiving, the physical needs that you are perceiving and recognizing in your reality. Right? If consciousness was so evolved to the point that it was not perceiving body, it was not perceiving limitation or separation, then there would be a different structural reality. But pretty much everyone here, alive in physical body and form, there is this interface between universal consciousness and its conditioning, where it's needing to work within its perception of limitations and forms. We don't transcend those limitations by running away from them, because it's not going to go away. And we're going to have a very direct experience of suffering, of falling behind, of struggling. And we don't work with these limitations by giving them this prominence as if there's a God over us, and then losing our soul, losing our spirit, losing our agency. We bring respect and consciousness. And I really feel that this is the middle way that Buddha and a lot of the teachers spoke to transcend form and time and space, all the while fearing it, all the while being irritated by it, is not to transcend any of it. There's this quality of patience and compassionate permission. What's the word that I'm looking for? Like a yielding respect. Especially to the places that feel hard and stuck, right? Be it a relationship or something we need to work out in our life, or physical responsibilities or our bodies. Anything that feels stuck and hardened, that's where we're called to bring respect and consciousness. And it's almost like We see this with all things. If you want to teach a child that has, very negative habits and hits people all the time, you can punish them, right? And teach them, if you hit people, you're going to get punished. And then they learn on that level of, okay, reward and punishment. If I do something bad, I'm going to get punished. If they say something nice, they're going to get rewarded. And we can work on that level, but we also have to go deeper than that. We have to teach that kid to become self-aware. The actions that they're creating outside are also happening on the inside. To become aware of, why am I acting this way? What am I feeling? Why do I act out in anger? Why do I have to react to my perception of other in such a harsh way, right? Helping them to unravel their own conditioning. And so we give them practices, we give them tools. This is a very conscious, self-responsible way of working with our existing conditioning. And so we don't say, there is no other, don't take anything personally, transcendent. Of course that wouldn't work. And we don't want to stay in that place of just punishing them, because that'll just ingrain the psychology of resistance or fear or more anger. So for all of us, I offer that perspective. When we look at Saturn in our own charts and transits, and even take Saturn out, when we look at the idea of form, time, and space, to see where we are invited, where we have this opportunity in virtue of being here to work on our minds, work on our relationship, how we are perceiving and approaching the manifestation of limitations, parameters, and boundaries in our life, and to use it consciously for our own purposes. It's a quality of respect and care. And when we work with Saturn in that way, there's actually a joy and a peacefulness. When we're not resisting form, we are then no longer defined by form. That's the middle way. By not resisting the experience and the perception of physical needs and opening ourselves to include it, it allows it to come to rest. And then our consciousness, the gravity of our being, doesn't have to be weighed down by a very physical focus all the time. We can allow ourselves to relax and open up more to the greater truth of love, the greater truth of who and what we are, and how we can cultivate that and heal together in this life.